We're going to talk to a poet next, Therese Broderick. Hey,
Hello.
it's good. I haven't seen you in a long time.
It's good to be back.
Yeah, so what are you doing with, you're the coordinator of Library of Poets? Tell me about that.
I'm the coordinator of what I call the Local Poets Library.
Okay.
It's a personal collection of hundreds of books authored by local poets.
Okay.
And I have it in my house. I've been collecting for about 20 years, and I hope that the library will serve the community as both a historic record of local poetry in the 21st century, but also as an inspiration to younger people, to the next generation. So I offer books for free to borrow and return on an honor system. And I have a list online of all the 400 authors and titles.
Do you really? Wow.
Yes, and I also do a traveling exhibit, a selection of the books that I'm very willing to take to community groups, classrooms, literary organizations.
And spread the word.
And spread the word, exactly.
When we talk about poetry, there seems to be some confusion. Okay. Poetry can be rhyming, every other line rhyming, or it can be prose where there's no rhyming, it's just lines. And then you got haiku, and you have, let's talk about poetry.
Well, poetry is one of the most multidimensional arts that have ever, been practiced by human beings. I love the fact that there are as many definitions of poetry as there are poets, and especially in this time, the contemporary times, really the greatest poets are rappers. And so if you're going to talk about what is poetry, you really have to be aware of the rap music and the rap poetry. They have distributed their poetry worldwide, so more people know about rap music and rap poetry than about any other
So poetry
kind of poetry.
snuck into the
Well,
kind of snuck in, right?
Some would say they were poets first,
Yeah.
and then they
Put the music to it.
They created something unique of their own, and that's what happens with poets of every generation. They turn something into their own invention.
If you look at Poe, with Evermore, with Raven, that's poetry.
You can call it poetry? Yes, exactly.
Yeah, so it's, so anything that rhymes is poetry, right?
No, you can have some rhyming poetry that you might just call doggerel.
Oh, okay.
But as I said, in my opinion, every single person has the right to call something a poem or not a poem. There is no one authority who can declare that
There's
this
no
is a
poet
poem, this is
police
not.
or anything?
There are no poets. But that doesn't, I don't mean to say that poets do not have their particular viewpoints about poetry. Almost every poet does. And it's not to say that there shouldn't be a lively a dialogue, about whether something is or isn't a poet. But what I like to do, I'm a big tent poet, so I like to include anything that the poet calls poetry. I like to say, yeah, why not? Let's include that.
So what, you brought a couple books, so let's
Yeah.
talk about what you've brought and why that's important in your library.
Yes. Well, I brought samples of the different kinds of materials I have in my local poets library. So this is a book, obviously.
Yeah.
It's by the local poet B.K. Kwan, who teaches at Union College. He's a Cambodian American poet. And this is called a chapbook instead of a book because it's a very slender, usually less than 48 pages. And this was written by Alan Catlin, who's a legend in Schenectady and Capital Region poetry. He's an extremely prolific author.
So these are local authors that
Oh
you're-
yes, because my collection is all local Capital Region authors.
Okay.
Yes, and then we have some poets who are also artists, like Dee Collin, and this is one of her artworks that she's created. So she's a very versatile artist, poetry and art, performance, a community activist. And then we also have journals. This is a local journal put out by the Albany Poets Organization. So this would be a place where local poets can submit to be published.
Oh.
And then there are also what are called broadsides. Broadsides are basically small posters of one poem, and they can be letterpressed or finely produced. So these are works of art, combining words and visual art. And then finally we have anthologies like this, which was put together by the local nonprofit organization called Hudson Valley Writers Guild. And the Guild has been around for more than 30 years. Its mission is to promote and develop local writers as well as to develop local audiences. And I encourage anybody to go to their website, hvwg.org. They also have a Facebook page. You'll find out a lot about local literary events through the Hudson Valley Writers Guild.
This is amazing. I guess I would just say, if people have books on poetry that they would like to donate, would you accept them?
Absolutely. I often go to the Schenectady County Public Library.
Yeah, when they have their book sale.
Oh, and a lot of people donate books to that. And then the wonderful thing about that sale is they have a dedicated section
for
for
poetry.
poetry. So I make a beeline
Yeah.
for that section, and I look through, and any local poet,
Okay.
I'll purchase the book.
Okay. So therefore, if you have books on poetry you'd like to donate to Therese, she'd be happy to get them, right? Yeah.
Yes, yes.
So, do you give classes to teach people, or so you're really an enthusiastic supporter of poetry?
Yes, because I'm a practitioner. I've
Okay.
had a practice of writing and sharing in the community for more than 20 years. I do have a Master of Fine Arts degree, but I think my focus is on participating in the local community. So over the past 22 years, I've written, I've performed, I've judged contests, I've participated in community festivals, shown up at fairs, and published with local publishers, grassroots, small publishers. I've visited as a guest poet. I've gone into classrooms.
Would you like to share one of your poems?
Oh, I actually did not bring one of my poems, but
Would you like to share a poem?
let's see.
I mean, we might as well hear a
yeah.
poem, right? We're here for talking about poetry.
Right. Actually, I do have a small poem in this anthology,
There you go.
but
This is totally unexpected. So
Yeah,
let her
this is
look.
a-
Let her
this is
look,
a-
and we'll talk about how.
unexpected, but actually, let me see if I can recite this poem.
It's okay. Putting you on the spot,
yes,
and you're being a good sport about it.
Right. This is called First Love Poem, and this actually is a poem my husband wrote for me.
Oh, nice.
So, and it goes,
So you're bound to remember that one.
right. I almost didn't bite when I first saw you because you looked 16. Now you are 40 and you still look 16. A sweet 16 at that. I'm glad I bit. I do have a sweet tooth for you.
Did he write that? Frank wrote that for
Frank,
you?
my husband, wrote that for me. Yeah, he writes me poems.
I know
Yeah.
her husband, and it's like, this is surprising that he wrote something so sweet, and not that you don't deserve it. It's just like I see him differently, He has a passionate side on him.
Yes, he wrote me a whole book of poems.
Oh, that's so sweet. So,
Yes.
Frank, you're such a guy. He's an author unto himself as well, and has written a number of books, and they're all well received as well. So, you guys are a perfect match. Yeah, you do poetry, he does books.
The literary life is a real important and rewarding part of our lives in the community in Albany.
Good.
Yeah.
I want to thank you for being here. I'm going to tell you who's coming up.